little bit of resistance about running your tests. You are developing and running the code.
I feel like the karma server tab is a little bit useful too. I don't know, I just look at that sometimes. What's the other one? Test run tab, which you can't get in Chrome. But
So you normally keep a single test running at a time, or you do a suite of tests, or how well does that even scale to do multiple tests running it?
In the console, you can target a specific suite. In WebStorm, you can edit the configuration of your console script. So this is a good way to kind of manage all your scripting inside the IDE, and share the same suite with all the teams, so that everybody don't need to redo the runner in the IDE. So for this, you need to get together and say, we all want to use WebStorm. Yes.
Is there a keyboard shortcut so when you're like so you can run the current test like you do in Java?
I bet there is.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Stan was here, he would know right away.
The keyboard.
let's call him. Let's
He's like, oh, you mean Apple Kiwi 7? Oh yeah.
I'll text him, I'll
You
find out.
got to have a Mac, but yeah, there is something along those lines.
There's some new Ubuntu key.
So pull up a terminal.
Yeah.
Typing commands.
That's pretty much it. It's pretty essential. It's, I think, the good steps, and we would love to hear your feedback. What do you guys feel we are heading in the right direction? What you guys are doing, and hearing also HP journey is going to be very enlightening. So, you have any questions? Additional questions? Any comments?
Can you go to your Karma config?
Sure.
We simplified ours quite a bit. And it was basically yet another thing our little high school intern did.
Our genius high school worker.
Exactly.
I had to use Emacs.
It's okay, I read it.
Yeah, it's the best.
How's your
Just your files.
Mhm.
We basically, our Bower components were about the same, but after that, keep going down. Yeah, okay, you did the same thing. So it's star.js, yeah, all over the place. So that way, when you just added new files, they just automatically picked up.
So, you automate the.
We did the same thing.
Yep. And
At
you
one point, you have services / star.js. At one point, we had every file called out explicitly.
Exactly.
So it got
And that got
awful
cleaned
to
up.
maintain stuff.
Yep.
what do you do?
So instead of doing a star like you did, just like you called out all the Angular UI stuff explicitly, every file we tested was called out there.
So we had, 40 files right in this file.
Wow.
Obviously, we didn't need that. Just checking to make sure you did the same. Brilliant 17-year ledger figured it out.
Unless you have, well, I actually haven't Google in it, so I don't deserve any credit. But
So you also, does Declara always publish the tests directory within the same folder? It looks like you have service /test / whatever, so all your tests are within the same directory as your actual code. You don't have a separate, all your app code and then a separate directory for all your test code.
so I think I got some influence from .NET, and what we did is exactly the same. Have the package to have its own configuration file, and that configuration file will drive directives, controllers, all the internals of that application. So inside application, I thought that was the best thing to do, because if we have a configuration file, even inside directives, it will make it too granular, and not quite likely you're going to have a lot of conflicts if you have it in the application level. If we push it back as the whole platform, I saw man, there's going to be a lot of conflicts when people is developing with this single file. Is that what you're asking?
Well, so you have your service directory, and that's potentially where all of your services.js files are. And then immediately under that you have test. what we've done is we actually have app, and then in our app we have all our modules, and then as a peer to app we have test. We have all the tests files.
That sounds like a Java structure.
It's a very Java, yeah, exactly. It's like all our test crap is over here, and then all of our other stuff is over here. And when you're actually, looking at the app code, you're not bothered with any of the tests and stuff. And I wasn't sure if that was, this is the way that Yeoman sets us up, and we actually actively went away and Javaized it maybe.
We were on the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wanted to, or you did do this?
No, we're in the middle of it.
Yeah, for us it was just annoying to have all that extra clutter of tests. We wanted to be.
It also made, you started to run into logic errors, right? We want to deploy everything under app or whatever, and then our regex or whatever was like, except if the folder is test, instead of just everything under app, go.
Yeah.
So there's just,
So you deploy the test directories prod too.
no, we don't.
You guys-
Oh,
Yeah, here's much easier.
Well, because the other option is you let run do all the concatenation and everything, and then drop it to your disk directory,
Yeah.
and it'll ignore test. But I think for me, it was just easier to not deal with that. If I'm in app mode, I'm in app mode. But
Yeah, and I think it depends on the company strategy for deployment. I remember bodybuilding does take the whole repo as the deployment strategy. So yes, in that scenario, you will be carrying over all the testing file structure. In our case, we currently do not automate the process, but we cherry pick the files that needs to be deployed. We process everything through a script to minify it, optimize it, and then, but what is minified is the cherry pick files. And we have, again, in the build structure is pretty simple. It's just identify if you want to minify it or if you want to use split out all your source files. But again, they are cherry picked as what is source. So in this case, you don't have any problem on where your test directory is in place. But I do see what you're saying. I'm saying my source is completely clean and the test is right there. I think what brought me to this scenario is that I wanted test to be in the eyes of the developer.
yeah, but it's in your face right here.
You're developing, you're not done, man. Look, there is this test directory.
Yeah.
And you still need to clean it.
It's always constantly reminding you it's the way. The other thing was if you were to deliver a directive to some open source community, if you just bring that whole folder over, then it's testable too, because your tests are right there too. I think that's the other reason they did it was
That's a good point.
it's in the same place.
That's what Angular UI does.
Excellent. That's it. It was hard. I was so nervous. Wanna go, Brett?
So I'm basically going to be going over, it's kind of nice because Mauricio did a lot of the unit subsystem stuff down here. And I'm mainly going to be focusing on integration and system level testing. So this is not a substitute for all of the stuff that Mauricio just talked about. This is in addition to that. And the examples I'm using are in Java with TestNG. And so Selenium, and I'm assuming is everyone familiar with Selenium?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, it's won't go into details on that then, but basically the WebDriver makes direct calls to the browser for automation, which was a big change from Selenium RC to the 2.0. So it's using the native automation stuff for each browser. And it interacts with the page just like a user does with text input, button pressing, all of that fun stuff. And then advanced things. I think everyone's familiar with most of this, but cookie management, proxies, JavaScript.
Does Selenium now handle pop-ups? Like basic authentication pop-ups?
Not OS pop-ups.
No, it doesn't, so,
no.
okay.
But we get around that. So, for example, that's a good question, like uploading a file with the browse, we just hook into the form input and we put the path in there and we don't need to worry about the OS dialog. And then one of the main things I want to talk about is the page object model. And it's a test strategy that wraps Selenium calls. And the idea behind it is every web page in your application has an associated page object. A test will only interact with the page object. So you should never see, using the page object model, you'd never see tests using WebDriver directly and doing Selenium calls. And all the Selenium interaction happens within each page object. The purpose behind it is encapsulation. If you allow tests to have access to the WebDriver, which is very powerful, you get a lot of people doing the same thing a lot of different ways. And this little snippet I have here is, it looks like a bunch of garbage, but that is the same way of interacting with the search box on google.com. So you can find it by any of those paths, and obviously some are better than others. Like ID is much better than CSS selectors or X paths that are very brittle and will break with any change on the page. The page object model also gives you compile time checks. So if the design changes on your website and instead of going to page A, now you're navigating to page B, you change it in the flow and all the tests will break at compile time, so you can easily find where they need to change, rather than if everything was strings and WebDriver calls, it's a runtime issue, which is a lot more expensive. It also simplifies test writing, and it makes it really easy to read tests. And we'll look at some examples of that. So this, for the purposes of this demo, I just did Gmail. So this, what you see on gmail.com, and then the page object associated with it. And it's obviously a simplified version. If I wanted to, I don't have anything for the need help, create account, stay signed in, but email, text box, password, and sign in are all wrapped inside of this page object. And so if a test wanted to log in, they would have to interact with this, and they don't make Selenium calls directly. Kind of go in a little bit of detail on what's called out here. So Selenium is kind of smart about how it finds elements. The reason that that's capitalized email is because that's actually the ID element on the DOM for the email text box. And Selenium will automatically find that. Same with all the rest. That's what the IDs are called out.
That's just shorthand, right? You don't have to do that.
Yes, you can, and that's the next slide. So on this one, this is in your inbox. They kind of have some ugly IDs for some of their stuff. So like the compose button is :4B, which is pretty cryptic. So you can name your variables whatever you want that's user friendly, and then with an annotation, it tells it how to find it. Let's see what else on here. And so then also timing issues, they're all encapsulated in the page object. So when we click send on, when you're in your Gmail, what happens is this will go away and you'll see a confirmation that says email successfully sent. So we would want to wait for that to know that it worked. And instead of having that burden on tests to know that they have to wait for things, you control it all inside of the page object, making it synchronous. Is there any questions on that? That's kind of a lot to take in on just one slide.
So that's what you're doing now in on there, the wait percent.
Yes, WebDriver wait. Yeah, that's a good question.
What's the 10
This is, the 10 is total time to wait in seconds, and the 200 is millisecond poll time. And so I just arbitrarily chose those. We actually have constants defined for our different waits, so we can control those. But yeah, WebDriver wait is a nice utility in Selenium to wait for certain conditions. So visibility, element clickable, absence of elements, all that kind of stuff you can do those with WebDriver waits. So you're not doing your own sleeping and waiting and different ways of checking, right? You let the WebDriver wait handle that. And here's some example tests using the one with good is using the page object model, and this would be an example without doing page objects. So you can see it's it's much easier to know what's going on the left one. You're getting a login page, and you don't have access to the WebDriver, so you're calling get email text box and type the text. Click sign in, click compose. It reads very much like a manual test steps, right? Where this one, it's the email, password, and sign in. You can kind of guess what's going on there, but after that, it's very it's hard to figure that out. And not only is it hard to read, but if something ever changed, if Google changed an ID on something and you had 500 tests doing this, you've got to find 500 tests and replace the IDs where this is in one place, the ID changes and all the tests are using it. So you got one path. Let's see, is there anything else? Any questions so far on any of that? So then, Sauce Labs is, it's a SaaS solution for web testing. It was created or founded by the creator of Selenium. You basically get a dedicated number of VMs for a Selenium grid to do a lot of parallel testing against any browser, OS, and platform that you need to test. Some added bonus or benefits that we, didn't even really need, thought we needed, were they give you video recordings of every test that runs, and then for every command you can record snapshots. And you can turn all that off too if you want to be more performance, have your test run faster, and then when you want to debug, you can turn all that on. So they allow you that flexibility of configuration. And kind of a side story for us, we used to try and maintain our own grid, and when we were just doing Chrome, it was pretty easy. Yeah, we can do this, and then as we brought on Firefox and IE, it became a nightmare, and we were fighting. I mean, we had a test engineer that his full-time job was maintaining this grid, and our metrics were just, all the time we would come in and have, grid issues, and it was a mess. And so, Sauce Labs is awesome. We've only had one minor hiccup. They were down for like an hour, and then that's it. And we've been using them since December, so yeah, it's great. I'll show you an example test, but first, before I do that, I'll go to this slide first. So this is kind of a picture of our grid that at least we're using. Right now we're paying for 25 nodes, and we can scale at any time, right? We only need 25 at the moment. And on the left, so we run our regression tests. We run on 5 browsers today, and we're only using 15 threads right now. And we're running them sequentially since we only have 25. But at any time, we could scale this up. We're going to go to 50 next, and you can just keep going from there, right? It's just money. But all the all the stuff on the left would be, our stuff, and it's all agnostic. All the tests and infrastructure is agnostic to how many nodes or anything over here, right? All we have to configure is the hub endpoint, and that's it. And then the hub does all the heavy lifting of, the Selenium commands are being sent to the hub, and the hub will provision and send those commands to whatever node. And it's just a configuration item. So when, the Chrome,
Use your finger.
You have to set a term.
So yeah, the Chrome one on the bottom, kind of bottom left, going up, right? So when that goes to the hub, it's going to provision up 15 VMs on whatever OS we say. So I think for Chrome right now we're doing Linux, but we can change that at any time, right? And it'll provision up 15 of those nodes with that version. It's also version-based browser, and run our tests. And it's actually really fast. They can provision a VM in less than a minute, up and running for your tests. So, and you're getting a pristine VM every time. So, that was one of the headaches we had with maintaining our own grid. Is we'd have one grid of our 20 that would get in a bad state, and every time that one gets picked in our run, it would have, and that's a pain in the ass to triage, right? Because you've got one bad node out there that you got to go and track. So yeah, this is our configuration today, but we'll be scaling. Is there any questions on that?
How often do you run?
We run our regression suite it's every time we promote to our test stack, which right now is every night. So at midnight we promote, and then our regression suite kicks off. And then if we need to, for whatever reason, cherry pick or something, we can run it again. So typically once a day for our regression, and then this integration test, that's running however many commits go in a day. So that one's running a lot more frequently. And then the developer use case is I'm a developer and I want to try and reproduce something or run a suite of tests against the, and then,
Test out IE9, which nobody has on there.
yep,
I
or I,
We don't support that.
Sauce Labs does, but we
yep.
don't have to.
And all the managing of the automation jobs that is going through Jenkins.
Yes, our jobs are all in Jenkins. Yep. And Sauce Labs actually has a plugin for Jenkins to be able to, so this job down here, that's not 5 different Jenkins jobs, that's what we used to do. So we would have a Chrome regression, IE11 regression, etc. It's one Jenkins job that's a multi-config Sauce Lab plugin, and you can, it's just checkboxes. So I could go into that job and just add a new checkbox for Opera, and now that's going to run Opera also in that configuration. And what's nice is that's making it so it's all in one build number and it's all on one revision of code. Whereas if you've got 5 jobs running, you have to line up build 37 on this job with build 19 on this job, and it's not as friendly to those things for metrics and stuff like that. So now I'm just going to go and show you an example test in Sauce Labs. And this test that I'm going to show is the same example test that I showed earlier with the Gmail of going in and back to the PowerPoint.
All right, Granny,
On the
so.
bottom right.
That fabulous email.
Yeah, right there.
Alt tab.
Okay. Okay, so the one in the top left, this is the test that I'm going to show you in Sauce Lab. So we're logging in as Selenium Bot 10, super secret password, sign in, compose, to message, another email, and then this is the test, and hello world as the body, and then we're going to send it. And remember, in the send, it's going to wait for the success message. So that's the test.
Just click the button again.
It knows what you want.
Okay. So I can go to, and this is going to step through the commands on the left in real time, so you can kind of see, what's going on.
Really cool.
No way.
Just gonna wait for the little success, and then it's done. So that was that.
I'm trying the developer. I can reproduce it.
Yeah, so this is great for, every now and then we'll get a crazy timing issue. It's hard to reproduce on a box. As long as it runs in our regression suite or our integration jobs or anything that's using Sauce Labs, we can go and you can go snapshot by this screenshot tab here, right? You could actually cycle through. Oh, I'm at the end.
Yeah, here, yeah.
Yeah, so you can walk through the whole, everything that's happening. And that's just a screenshot, but you can also over here, you can go command by command. So this is what the screen looked like with this command. You can get the Selenium log right here, which is very verbose. So yeah, you've got access to all of that stuff from Sauce Labs. The other really nice thing, this also shows, so we were running on Linux version 35 of Chrome. And I'll show you. Do we have time? I don't know. I'm probably going over.
Yeah.
Everybody
Real quick. So up here, they allow you, so in that we have a 25 VM bank, right? So, so I can go, if I want to reproduce an issue, like, someone mentioned, you don't have Windows or IE 9, or IE 8. So I can go to Windows 7, IE 8. If I go to XP, I can go to IE 6 if I really want to. And then test. So it's provisioning me a VM with IE8 on whatever I said, Windows XP or 7. And then I can poke around and I can actually manually test something with whatever OS browser that I want. And then there's other advanced bug features that we don't use yet, but you can take snapshots, submit a bug, and email it with steps, all that stuff. It's all supported in Sauce Labs. So it's pretty cool. There's a lot of advanced stuff.